All right, everybody. TexAgs Rewind. Ryan Broniger in the host chair today for David Nuno. We talked a whole lot about conference realignment. We haven't been on the airwaves since last Friday when the news broke that USC and UCLA were headed to the Big Ten, and kind of the trickle-down effect that has taken place all over college football since that news has been reported. Me and Olin Buchanan talked about it for the entirety of the Go Hour plus some. We had Billy Liucci in to share his thoughts about that, his thoughts about the A&M team, the new incoming freshmen that are arriving this summer or have arrived this summer and will be participating in summer workouts here shortly as we are just 30 days away from fall practice, getting ready to get going. And then Luch stuck around for the remainder of the 10 o'clock hour to talk a little recruiting and much, much more. Here's the rewind on TexAgs. Are you happy with the direction of college football?
Well, I'm not happy with it. I'm more of a traditionalist kind of guy for the most part. Not 100%, but for the most part. And I like the region, I like the regionality, if that's a word, of college football. And that's being absolutely destroyed. But it's just, I understand it.
I was talking about direction, and obviously conference realignment is the main topic, but I'm talking about the entirety of the sport. Like, are you happy with NIL? Are you happy with the transfer portal? Like, the entire direction of the thing.
None of that. I mean, I understand the need for NIL, but again, no rules were ever put in place. I don't know how you're going to retroactively go back and try to.
You can't
right.
put the genie back in the bottle.
Again, and that goes back to the inept organization that the NCAA is.
Well, but that's NIL's not NCAA.
I know, but
this goes back to Maverick Carter, LeBron James, and Gavin Newsom sitting in a room in California.
Nope.
They signed the bill into law, and they said, look, we're these great people that we've done all this stuff. You guys figure the rest of it out.
The NCAA, if you had any kind of foresight at all, you could have realized, look, if this ever gets into court, and it's been trending that way for years, we're going to lose. So let's be proactive. Let's create an NIL, but let's put our rules on it. So then it never went to Congress. But so that's why the NCAA could have done something and never did. And so now I don't like the transfer portal. I thought was a good idea, but again, there was no rules. In fact, the only rule they took away that you didn't have to.
Well, I think reinforcing that you have to sit out for a year would change a lot of what's going on in the transfer portal. The only stipulation on the transfer portal is dates.
Right.
You got to be in by a certain date. That's it for every sport.
Mm-hmm.
College sports now, for what it was even 4 years ago, completely different.
Yeah.
It's completely different. It's almost unrecognizable. And so let me ask you, so this all curtails into this question. Are we witnessing the end of the NCAA?
Yes. I think maybe Mark Emmert finally, for the first time in his tenure, and even guys before him, finally saw the future, looked ahead, and said, "Oh, I better do something. So I'm going to go ahead and retire before we're just dissolved anyway." It's a worthless organization. The NCAA is only as powerful as the programs allow them to be, and what you're seeing is the major programs, the ones, again, like A&M and Texas and Michigan, Ohio State, that always had what they wanted to do was always blocked by the Akrons and Rice and the smaller programs are fine, and that's what made the NCAA what it was that the big programs had to do what the majority wanted, and then they finally said, no, we're going for autonomy, and it's been changing ever since. And now I think you're getting even closer. I've always thought that eventually college football, the big conferences would break off from the NCAA and form their own governing body, right? And I thought it'd be like 5 conferences and about 70-something teams. And it may be 70-something teams, but it may not be 5 conferences.
Well, what happens with Notre Dame?
That I'm sure the Big Ten is trying to get them right now. The ACC, if they play an ACC schedule now, or just about. Mm-hmm. 2 years ago in COVID, of course, they were an ACC team. So that Notre Dame would save the ACC, but if the Big Ten could get them, then that's the plum out there, right? But if Notre Dame continues to say, no, we're not going to join a conference, what's going to keep college football from saying, okay, well, we're going to move on without you? We're talking about this 70-team Super League or, Super Division. What if they say, okay, well, you know what? You're not in it.
There's going to have to be some pride swallowed on one side of that argument. I don't mean what would the proposal be, that if they don't join, they're playing a lower division or they're out on
the
football?
proposal is just like, oh, here's the deal, what we're doing. We've got our own division now, and it has all the major conferences, and we're not in the NCAA anymore. We have our own deal, and we offered you a chance to be part of it, and you said no, because to be part of our deal, you got to be in this one of these conferences, and you said no. Okay, fine, we're moving on without you, and you can play Baylor and TCU and Texas Tech and Oklahoma and the teams from the West Coast, Oklahoma State. You can play Cal and Stanford and Army and Navy. But when it comes time to have that playoff, you're not in it. And when we're going to crown our national champion, you're not going to be part of it.
You don't think NBC would step in and say, whoa.
Wait, is NBC even part of this? Because it's all right now we're talking about ESPN and Fox.
Right. But they've got a huge contract, right, with Notre Dame to be the exclusive TV provider.
Right, fine, and they can still do that. But you know what?
Right, but their viewership's going to get eaten up quite a bit, right?
So I've always felt like Notre Dame is only as powerful as the rest of college football allows them to be. And if you finally say, look, we don't need them. Hey, we want you.
Right.
I want you. It comes that significant other that's finally it's not worth the trouble. Hey, I want you. Come on, marry me. But no, you keep telling me no. Fine, I'm moving on. And I'm going to be okay.
If Notre Dame is open to joining a conference, they are in an enviable position, right? Because
everybody wants them.
Everybody wants them, and so I don't know what kind of care package you can put together to entice. But we're maybe seeing conferences recruit programs.
Well, we're already seeing that.
But no, I'm talking about where it's like a bidding war, pulling back and forth, right? I don't think the SEC was too interested in trying to get USC and UCLA.
I think
in the next round of moves.
I think the SEC was interested in Texas and Oklahoma, so they wouldn't go to the Big Ten.
If the SEC had their druthers, they wanted Texas A&M and North Carolina 11 years ago, and there's a lot of reasons why. Academically, where it's located, and that market, expanding that footprint, which they would not do with Miami, and just expanding, going out to the west by adding A&M. They didn't want to add Missouri. I mean, they really didn't. It's almost like Missouri said, hey, we'll be the 14th. And there was a time, and I've heard Sankey say it, he said it last weekend at the 12th man meetings, there was a time that when they were considering doing a 13-team league. And then Missouri, hey, yo. And
really smart move on their part, considering where things are going.
Where they're on their part. They're in a great position. Yeah. Hell, and they could probably leave for I don't know how much of a fight the SEC would put up if they tried to leave for the Big Ten. That might be a smart move for them from a competitive standpoint. I don't think, you couldn't happen right now, but as the dominoes start falling, maybe they go, I heard you guys talking about Vandy and stuff, but maybe Missouri, go ahead, you're a better fit over there. We don't really need you. Yeah. But Carolina was the gem. Virginia Tech was a possible. Carolina was the gem. And it would still be considered a monster coup. But where I agree with you is, eventually, and I said this a long time ago, you're looking at NFC, AFC in this football thing eventually. I don't know if it's 24, 26, 28, whatever, 32 team leagues like the NFL, and you have college football on Saturday, NFL on Sunday. I don't know. I heard you guys. I don't like it. I don't like all the stuff going on, the NIL, like the transfer portal. They have no control over anything. They have no vision whatsoever for where it's going.
This is the death of the NCAA.
Yeah, but it's not only the NCAA, though. I don't like where it's going for the game, for the sport. Eventually, you've got to think that a league, even like the NFL, is going to say, look, you guys can enter the NFL whenever you want. Someday that's going to happen too. Because everything is completely There's no rhyme or reason to anything. It's like every man for himself, a free-for-all. Eventually, the NFL is just going to say, you can all come in. And it's going to, ruin lives of so many kids on down the road. But hey, you get paid in college, so be it. To me, it's not just the death of the NCAA. It is going to eventually be a real problem. And I'm hopeful that somehow this thing will get back onto the highway and get into a lane. But I right now it's just completely in the ditch, and it's hard to see how it's going to come out of it. But the Miami thing, eventually, when it goes to that size, yes, I think you engulf a Miami. I just don't think that they're sitting at the top of the list, or even, maybe not even top 3, but they're eventually, yeah. I think.
Well, I was going off that report from Dennis Dodd.
Yeah, I think eventually it engulfs.
Yeah,
Miami.
Florida State, Clemson, and Miami.
No.
But he mentioned Noah Thomas and Chris Marshall by name.
Everybody does, and that's exciting when you think about what everybody's said since Evan Stewart stepped foot on campus about him. So you really feel like there's a chance they hit a home run at receiver, which they desperately needed to do. They've had some good signees along the way, but not – I wouldn't say they've had a true elite class of receivers signed since Jimbo got here. And they stepped up and did that this season, I think. I mean, early returns first of all, 2 of them are 5 stars for starters. Second, though, the early returns have been, I would say, beyond encouraging, like exciting at receiver and tight end. And everyone's talking about those tight ends, and particularly, Theo Malin-Ostrom. Not to say they're not talking about Donovan, and especially Jake Johnson, who showed when he was out there this spring how good he could be right away. But Theo, and I've said it before, so I'll keep it short, but Theo and some of these other guys at the bottom of the class in terms of just rankings only, which most years would be probably – most years – like, let me give you 6, 7 names. Martrell Harris, Theo, Mark Naboo, Hunter Erb, Ish Harris.
Noah Thomas.
And Noah Thomas, okay? So 6 names there. Normally, those guys are probably like the middle and the meat of your class, and it would be a pretty good class. That's probably like the meat of a top 15 class. There'll be a small handful of guys rated higher, a couple guys, some guys rated under. I would even throw in like a Bobby Taylor, like a Jared Kerr. Like that's like we're up to like 8 guys now that you go, well, those dudes, especially the first 6 I named those guys are really turning heads with what they can do athletically and just in the offseason. In a couple instances, namely like Theo and Naboo and Herb, like what they look like physically. And those guys are the lower rated, so that's really exciting. It tells you that maybe the class is even better. And then you've got things like Gabe Brownlow-Dindy at 308. Running probably faster than any of our 300-pounders on the roster, and he's not all the way back from an ACL yet.
Yoked.
Absolutely. You saw that picture of him. I saw him in person. He looks like he's been in college football for 3 years.
Walter Nolan.
Walter Nolan's like 310, which is good weight for him. They said he's running really well. I've heard about how quick and explosive guys like Malik and Eni White are. Jacoby Matthews, everybody, I've talked to, I've had a bunch of DBs in here, and they're like, oh yeah, like he's, and him and Denver Harris, and then you got like some people don't even talk. I saw somebody.
It's hard to talk about them all, dude.
Listed me a bunch of corners, and they're like, is this the best the cornerback position has been since the Wrecking Crew? And I'm like,
all right, that's the Rewind. TexAgs. I will be back here in the host chair tomorrow, so you'll see me one more time before I think Zane and Dalton take you through the rest of the week. Zane's standing right there. Zane, what do you do on these videos? Scream so everybody can hear you. Like. Comment. Subscribe. Zane said that in his backward Lewis Hamilton Mercedes hat. Is that a Mercedes hat? I don't even know what I'm looking at. I don't watch F1. Who does? All right, see you guys tomorrow on TexAgs.com.